anything else.
All right, let's start. Looks like on the phone, we have Sergeant Strack from Monmouth PD. But he probably can't. Is our thing on? It's okay. Let's just go around real quick, just to introduce everybody, just so I'll start. I'm Mark Garten.
Jody Merritt, Polk County Community Corrections Director.
Morgan Smith, Polk County Council.
Dallas City Council. Somebody.
Jessica Fitz, community member.
Tom Simpson, LPD. Jerry Mott, LPD. Fred Gordon, Commissioner.
I'm Jake Kim, Rockwood Administrator.
Tim Park, Hearing Referee.
John Cummings, Organ Authority.
Matt Jarvis. Driving up keys late.
Alvin Kelly, Liberty House.
Perfect. And Judge Hill, thank you for coming. Looking for approval for minutes for the previous February meeting. Looking for approval of those.
Move to approve.
I don't know who said that. Gotcha. Okay. Second, anybody? Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Morgan Smith.
No intro. I'm here for my once every 2 years to come into this meeting and talk about membership, make sure we've got an updated roll. So the terms for all the voting members for LPSCC are 2-year terms, which I believe expired at the end of 2024.
Did not get it done in time.
We're on top of it in May. So I'm just gonna go down to kind of a roster of who we've got and how they're appointed and make sure everything is up to date. And if anyone needs reappointment or new changes, we can figure that out. The first one, of course, is a chief of police needs to be a voting member as appointed by the police chiefs of the county. And I have as Bob Mason here, which I assume is no longer accurate. Do we have another appointed, have the chiefs of police elected, appointed someone to serve in the, in lieu of Chief Mason?
Chief Haynes. Yeah.
Haynes, perfect. Of course, we have Sheriff Garten, we have DA Felton for those two positions that don't require appointment, that just comes with the job. Thanks, Sheriff. And then it is the presiding judge. There needs to be a state court judge on LPSCC, currently filled by Judge Hill. I'm assuming that will remain constant. Okay. And then we have a defense attorney who I had from 2 years ago as vacant. It appears to be Mr. Jarvis. Is that correct? All righty. And then Director of Community Corrections is Jody. That will continue. You don't get to run away. County Commissioner Wardhorst, who is present. We do not have the Public Health Director appointed. And I don't know if we've had the Public Health Director on LPSCC. It's historically, I think, just been left vacant. But that's a Board Commissioner's appointment. And if we want, we can figure that out. Back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer,
Came as the representative.
yeah, from Noel.
Yeah.
I think that was behavioral health. This is public health, which is odd. So we'll get that sorted away. It's a BOC appointment. We'll figure out who that's going to be.
And are you, who's the chair? Or half, I mean, not chair, the vice chair. Is that you? Okay.
And then we need an elected representative from the cities, which sounds like we have. Connecticut. Okay. And that is selected by the cities and the counties. Have you been appointed here for all the cities?
No, just for Dallas, I think.
No, that's fine.
No, it's all,
Oh, okay.
Brian, reach out to other cities.
Well, that's right, yes, it was last year, so memory faded,
Yep.
but you're right, yes.
Perfect. So that will continue. And then is Mr. Latta still serving as the city manager,
He is,
appointed position for this?
he is.
Perfect. And then for the community-based nonprofit victim services representative, Ms. Kelly, I'm assuming that will continue. Okay. And then representative from the state police, I have as Captain McCool. Is that remaining constant, or do we have a new representative from the state police?
I don't even. What was the last name?
Andy McCool.
Okay.
And that is appointed by the superintendent of the state police. So maybe we need to reach out to them, see who the new appointment will be,
Yeah,
and circle back with them.
Sheriff, it'll probably be the new Northwest Region Commander.
well, that's why I'm wondering if it's, I don't even recognize this person.
Well, I don't think Andy's gonna be doing it anymore.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It'll probably be, yeah. He just, moved from the lieutenant
Zoner?
Zoner.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask him.
Sam's been in contact with the state police.
Alright.
That's where that name came from. So maybe she has another name.
Okay, and then the last one is a representative from OIA, and I have it, and I believe it is outdated. I had a Mark Runyon.
John Cummings filling in for my friend.
Okay, so he will continue on the board and you're his stand-in for the day?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So I think we're set. We will figure out at the BOC on the behavioral health or public health appointment, and everyone else seems to be in their place.
Do we need to like vote on
No, because all the appointments are outside of LPSCC.
chair and, okay,
You can do that as well. That was the next,
okay,
once we got the membership sorted.
Okay.
The chair and vice chair is a 2-year appointment as well, operating on the same 2-year cycle.
okay. Okay, we'll follow up with that later then.
So those appointments need to be re-upped by the DOC.
Yeah, we'll get that taken care of. I'll probably, that's why Nicole's here.
Here, isn't it?
We're just gonna start. over. Anything else, or is that it for that?
That was it. And then it's just chair and vice chair, just to follow the bylaws.
Okay. Well, does it need to be noticed out ahead of time if we're gonna vote on the chair and vice chair? Do you recall seeing that?
It's not required in the bylaws.
Okay,
It's not on the agenda, so that's a choice for you as the chair for running the meeting. You're never necessarily constrained by your agenda. You can take on new business.
I'd be okay with solidifying the chair and vice chair, so we don't have to do it again. Is anybody interested in doing it? I see that. I see, perfect, okay. Action, okay. No, yeah, I would be happy to do it or keep doing it. Are you good, Commissioner, with?
I'm good.
Commissioner Gordon, you interested?
I'm not a member of the committee.
You could.
You could take my
you could Take
place.
his spot.
I can sit back there.
Your call. Let's do what I'm told.
I'm good.
Need a motion?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So moved.
Okay.
Continue, sure.
Second.
Well, that was easy.
Thank you for
I
your
sure- I-
continued service.
I heard the beeping coming back toward me, so. All right, was there a second? I didn't catch that if there was. Okay, David. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Perfect. Those are done. All right, juvenile justice conversation.
Oh, okay. So let's start with actually the justice reinvestment. So Sam had sent out the justice reinvestment preliminary grant application requesting a support letter from the LPSCC. It had a due date. Unfortunately, we hadn't had an opportunity to meet. So the bylaws require that we actually ratify that with a formal vote at LPSCC. So that is what we'll need to do with that justice reinvestment piece. So that was applied for the preliminary grant application. They have not opened the formal grant application. So once that becomes available again, I don't believe we need to come back to the LPSCC for another vote or letter, since we already have a support for the application. The application, the Justice Reinvestment Program Subcommittee of the LPSCC met, and there are not any changes to the Justice Reinvestment Program application for this next biennium. So it will pay for a full-time QMHP in the jail, a half-time case manager, and prescriber hours for the jail. That's what it currently pays for, so it'll continue. If there's added money, we don't know what the final budget is yet and what Polk County's allocation will be. Once we receive that, if there's additional funds that could provide an additional half-time QMHP in the jail, that is the recommendation of the subcommittee for justice reinvestment. So, but I am asking for a vote of support.
That we already supported.
Yeah, that you already supported, but the bylaws do require a ratification vote. So,
How should that be phrased?
Do you recall reading the letter that we sent out?
I recall reading it. I don't recall exactly what was in it now.
so
It's generally, I mean, it's just it doesn't lock us into anything. It's just supportive of the concept to move it forward to get to the next stage. So that's really, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I just want to make sure we have it worded right for the record. that's
Yeah.
all.
So the letter went out.
The letter did accompany the preliminary application. So, so ultimately, our motion and vote would be to support the justice reinvestment application for Polk County for the next biennium.
But specifically right now, you need a motion to ratify.
Which is basically what we already did. So it's to support that.
Okay. Another second, perfect. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor by signifying by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
Aye.
We have that.
Okay, and then the secondary piece, we also sent out the juvenile crime prevention plan that was forwarded to everybody. Again, for preliminary authorization, because we hadn't had lipstick, it did have a due date. So that juvenile crime prevention plan was provided. It's to continue with a halftime PO to support our sanction court program through the juvenile department. So we will need to ratify that as well. And there is discussion. There were questions not specific to that, but secondary that I believe that we wanted to talk about.
That's probably my email.
It was, but I ran it down and got information so we could have a conversation.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing is great. I love sanction court. I've had several kids that I've later represented participate in that. It's a good program. I have noticed, and Judge Hill may back me up or not on this, is we have been getting a large increase in kids that have behavioral problems. And so they may have IEPs at the school, and they may be going to a special behavioral unit, whether it's Polk day treatment or the Oasis school up in Greenville. That's where most of it are. We're central in Dallas, and they're IEP behavior kids. Salem is putting their school.
You said a big increase. How big?
I don't know. I think more majority of them.
I would say the majority of the youth that make it to juvenile court, the vast majority have significant, mental health, needs. I think my anecdotal sense is it's gotta be close to 75 to 80%. The typical adolescent got a little too exuberant. Those get taken care of in sanction court. They don't ever make it to us. We spend most of our time, I think, with kids that have profound emotional and oftentimes developmental needs.
And Salem Kaiser is moving their behavioral school to Straub. And so they will most likely be done with that in another year. They're actually adding a wing to that. So in Polk County, at least, we're going to be getting probably the majority of Salem Kaiser's problem kids that Salem PD and the sheriff's office will get to deal with.
Well, the upside though is we get very, very few referrals from Salem Kaiser.
Yeah.
So I would anticipate that doesn't change. And then the juvenile jurisdiction for those kids will most likely be wherever they live. So if they live in Salem, but they have an issue with school, that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna come to Polk County. If there is a referral, most likely it'll be Marion.
To where they live, okay.
Yeah, and Salem Kaiser, I believe there was a question again to them as to whether or not they were going to do the SROs again back in the school. And that's where a majority of our referrals actually came from. And so a lot of the activity that's happening at the school is not being followed up on unless the parents follow up by it, calling the police after the fact. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So there's times we get things, but the majority we don't get a lot out of Salem Kaiser.
And I don't expect that to change. I think that there's a movement for the new school board to change that, but I
Right.
don't know if the electoral will's there.
Well, my recollection is even when we had SROs in the schools, toward the tail end of that, we weren't getting referrals even from them. So I think it's just a philosophical approach of not having youth involved in the juvenile justice system.
So we need a ratify a
Yes.
similar
Similar,
set to the JRP.
yes.
Is anybody willing to make that motion?
My motion.
That LPSCC supports this concept moving forward. Perfect. If no one has discussion, signify by saying aye if you're supportive.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Perfect.
Can
Yeah.
I please make a policy comment?
Sure.
It's somewhat tangential, but not unrelated to SROs. When SROs were part of the mix, they were a significant beneficial resource for kids. And the reporting of child maltreatment, and my friend is going through this, was easier when there was that. So the loss of that asset has significantly had a negative impact on kids being able to get resources.
Okay.
And to further
Yeah.
follow up on Jarvis, your email, because I think that your email referenced more of a DD and DHS affected clients or
Well, yeah.
youth or interaction, missed opportunities, I believe is what you said.
Correct. And so, and all I know is my anecdotal evidence. With the
Right,
clients that I had. So
right.
I've had 6 now that have been part of Oasis. And so they come either from Central or Dallas School District. I think there's one kid from Wilmington. And they all were DD kids. And they were all supposed to have behavioral support plans. Only one actually had a completed plan. The rest were never followed up either by Polk County DD services or the parents. And what ends up happening is the schools then don't have as many tools available to kind of address that behavior. They fall back on their policy, which, I mean, this is McMinnville police that have had to deal with that. But I had one kid that McMinnville responded 45 times because he kept walking away from Oasis. And he had a very simple behavioral support plan piece that hadn't been implemented because it hadn't been signed off that would have most likely alleviated the problem. So what I've noticed is there's been a lack of, we get these kids in these behavioral schools, and there's a lack of communication, I think, with the rest of the community partners that, hey, there are other ways to kind of deal with this. Because what happened to all those kids is they needed to be made fit to proceed. And so they go up to the Nexus program in Port Canal. Polk County Juvenile Department doesn't have the resources to deal with that. So that means Mr. Cummings and OIA gets involved. And one kid, literally all he needed was a dark room to go sit in. So it's kind of like, let's work these behavioral service plans so that we can actually keep the community safe.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what they do. The school doesn't stop them from leaving when they want to leave. And they're usually in some type of behavioral crisis. And I worry about St. Kaiser having that at straw. So
yeah.
When I met with the principal of West Salem High School and was questioning him about students making bad decisions and having consequences, he said, that's not a corrective time. That's the time we need to love them. These kids were locked out of school and alone for several months. So they don't need corrective movement right now. They just need to be loved. So that's why we don't get the referrals. And that's why it's getting so out of hand.
Yeah, and I think that, so I had met with Amanda Stevens, who oversees Polk County's DD services, to try and get more of an idea of, because there was another conversation I was involved in with fire and EMS that the group homes in Monmouth Independence and the amount of resources that are being taken by responding officers and EMS and fire, so that has been a conversation also. And so it's a bigger conversation that I just wanted to be sure that you knew that is being had. So I sat down with juvenile department and Amanda Stevens about the DD services piece to try and really understand, some of these gaps in their program that we don't necessarily understand. And so there's a difference between county case manager and state case manager, and how that's disconnected, and the behavioral plans learn that the youth has a great deal of insight and input into those plans. So if they don't like it, then the plan doesn't go into place. Well, that doesn't help the rest of us. And so, so we were able to, and we already do, and I just wanted to put this out there from the juvenile department standpoint, we do have one PO that is fairly versed in the DD world, and speaks the language now and is able to kind of identify some of those gaps and barriers and really push from our end. But we try not to further embed them in the criminal justice system, which is where we do sanction court and FAAs and a variety of other things. But there are times when we can't do anything, as you know, and we have to rely on the services that unfortunately OIA has, or we believe they have, because that's a challenge for them as well, because the number of youth with DD as well as mental health and substance use is increasing. And we're seeing that across the board. And so I think that we're all facing those challenges, but I just wanted to speak to your email of, we have maybe 10 on our caseloads right now that are involved with DD services. And I know that Amanda Stevens had provided me with some stats just overall for Polk County, that they're serving about 319 kids. 9 of our kids are actually placed outside of the county, but there's 19 youth from other jurisdictions that are placed in homes in our county. And so we are also struggling with, when they act out and there's behavioral issues, who gets that referral and who's filing on that, who's following through with that, because we do have victims involved or property damage and so from the juvenile department standpoint, we're trying to figure that out. Some counties are a little bit more open than other counties are. And so, so it's not a perfect system, but the juvenile department is working very closely with them, trying to make sure that we're not getting to the point where they're all going to OIA, because we don't want that either. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that, which I know you already do.
Yeah.
All right. Departmental reports, community corrections.
Well, juvenile department, I already talked about, everything's going wonderful there. They're amazing. The adult side, we have hired, we did have 2 vacancies because of, I don't recall why. People left. It's been a long time. And so we do have all positions filled, but we are still in training. Our newest one graduated the academy last weekend before last, Friday before last. And so now we just have to get her through her PTO. So we're still in the process of training. We can't give her a caseload probably for another 3 or 4 months. We'll start building her caseload. So we're still in I call it whack-a-mole. Not something for the minutes, but reactionary type of reactionary type of supervision. So our caseloads are too high. And so we're just managing at this point, but I'm hoping that by the end of summer, we should be in a good position where I can get those caseloads lower. I'm hoping to get more money out of the legislature so that I can bring on maybe 1 or 2 more POs, and then I can really get them lower. So that we can do all the things that the state requires us to do. That was not begrudgingly.
Courts.
Yeah, I have something. We have had a few occasions in the past few months where people are getting cited into court at times that we're not prepared for them to be cited into court. And so I wanted to take a minute to remind all of our law enforcement friends here of what we'd like to see happen. So if you're citing somebody into circuit court, this is only applying to circuit court here in Polk County. For violations, it's either a Monday or a Thursday at 9 o'clock. You'll either cite them to room 301 or courtroom number 4. Don't cite them any longer to courtroom number 3. That's been the default for quite a while. Now it's now changed to courtroom number 4 or room 301. And if you're citing somebody for a criminal matter to appear out of custody, that needs to be Wednesdays at 2:30. Yes. That's all I had, Mark.
Unja, you have anything or?
No, we're still waiting on the legislature to dole out some money, but other than that.
Sheriff's office wise, we have a couple folks in FTEP on patrol and one in backgrounds and will technically be full. We had 2 sergeants in the jail retire, so we promoted 2 new people to take those roles. So it's a changing landscape over in the jail. Our numbers are up. We're probably about 130 a day, somewhere around there for our average daily population. 2 months ago, we were at like 100 to 110 is our max. So we have the numbers are up for whatever reason. So that's all I got, I think. Mr. Felton. Where's he frozen? Literally not moving. He's frozen.
Hey there, Aaron.
Aaron Felton. Okay.
Very thoughtful post.
This Matt Jarvis, defense attorneys.
Oh, well, as you may have heard, the executive director of OPDC got fired. So they appointed a guy who was part of the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. He was the head there. He's also a lawyer. Yes, it's been radio silence since that happened. Other than we've got now less than 2 months left on the contracts, and so they decided to amend it pretty significantly for the last 2 months. And nobody's signing the amendment. We believe it's a preview for what the contract will look like, which they still also have not gotten out, even though they're required by state law to have it out to us at least 90 days before it gets implemented. So.
Have they asked for RFPs yet?
No, they haven't even done that. They should have done that 6 months ago. So we're at a position where there's not a lot of communication from the Office of Public Defense Counsel because of their changes in executive director. They fired a couple of people they probably should have fired like 8 years ago. As for numbers, everything I think is on track. We don't have any currently unrepresented. The only issue we'll have is if we have a significant number of J law cases come in for murders.
We do have a couple of unrepresented.
Oh, do we? Okay, that was
It's fairly recent. It's because of conflicts. Everybody had one. And so we're trying to find somebody, but right now there's, I think, 2.
Okay.
So Matt, what's the limitation that they're putting on each defense? How many cases can they handle at a time?
They have what's called MAC, which is supposed to be this maximum active caseload. And it's less than what it used to be. So when I first started, it was kind of, you took whatever came into the doors. Where the problem is that the attorneys can say that they have a ethical caseload limit so that they ethically can't take more cases. And for a lot of these guys, it's significantly below what the MAC is. And so none of the providers in Polk County are doing that. They're doing that mainly with the PD's offices in Marion up in Portland and Eugene area. The other problem is they've kind of restricted the type of case the attorney takes. You have to meet certain qualifications. And so that's why we end up having a problem with the Jessica law cases and the murder. We either have attorneys who don't choose to take that qualification on, or just haven't been practicing long enough. And then as Judge Park indicated, if we have somebody that's gone through everybody because they're conflicting out, then that creates issues. I expect OPDC is probably being pretty slow at getting back to you guys. So, yeah.
That's pretty par for the course though.
Okay, Board of Commissioners.
So we're just sitting back watching all of the unfunded mandates come through from the Marble Palace. And let's set our piece. Jeremy's been very involved in the legal. I'll let you expand on that.
I can take the blame.
You can be the hero.
Well, through APCS, I co-chair the Public Safety and Veterans Steering Committee, and like Jody mentioned, we're focused on 1145 funding, the formula funding for corrections. As she said, caseloads are very high, and the cost is increasing over time, and we're not being funded appropriately for that. And we're required to submit cost studies that may or may not be honored, which is always fun. Another bill we're going to discuss today, Jody and I discussed it earlier today, is House Bill 3069. And that is to keep the deflection program under CJC, which is kind of good. However, counties would only be allowed to take about 3% in admin. The majority, 75%, would be competitive. Only 25% of the funding would be formula funding. And it's sort of putting all of these programs, JRI, Measure 57, Impact Trends, under one bucket. So the fear is more risk for unfunded mandates and less local control. And so the points of our advocacy will be under those two, kind of values. And, I have no doubt that groups like ours can design really good programs if we're given the freedom to do that. So we'll be watching those. But CJC is generally better than OHA for deflection, so you take what you can get. But.
Yeah.
Since Dallas PD is not on the list, they can start. Dallas PD.
Oh, really?
I wondered about that when I got the, I was gonna ask.
I didn't do
Taking
it.
care of it. Thank you.
Incognito. No, I don't have a whole lot to report. I've been out for a couple of weeks. Deputy Chief Mott has had the helm and taken care of things. We're fully staffed. And we will be for a short period of time here. We'll be short one in a couple months because I'll be retiring. This will be my last LPSCC committee, and Deputy Chief Mott will be your new chief of police here 1st of July. So that's exciting news. Anyway, Jerry, you've been here for the last 2 or 3 weeks. If you have anything you want to share, feel free.
No.
You, and I'll leave the exciting stuff as far as facilities. You're a counselor.
Chief, you're not gonna contract back for?
It'd be kind of hard to do from Georgia.
Oh, gotcha.
Congratulations to both chiefs.
Yeah.
Yes,
Congratulations.
well earned in both cases.
Thank you for all those years.
Sergeant Strack.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me at all?
There
Okay,
you are.
You may need to turn them on.
so we are looking pretty good. We've got one guy graduating the academy on the 16th, and we're excited to have him get started on FTEP and get through the process. And we actually have interviews tomorrow, and we're hoping to get one, if not two. We're hoping for two because we are looking at about 3 retirements coming up by the end of the year. So we got a lot of moving parts coming up, and hopefully we can get those filled as soon as possible. Other than that, we're looking pretty good.
Thank you. Salem PD.
Hi, continuing on that theme, we're down 11 positions. We're looking to hire 6 before July 1st. We're hot and heavy in budget season. And so I think our last budget committee meeting is tonight, or is Wednesday night. As of right now, in the interim city manager's proposed budget, there's no cuts to public safety, so we'll see if there'll be something that comes out on Wednesday night. And then, of course, we're waiting for our bond on the library parks and Center 50 Plus. See if that makes it through, and then that would kind of throw a wrinkle into the whole budget process. But that's, so a lot of things for us are on hold until after, probably till May 21st, so we kind of see some results from that. So kind of sitting and waiting to get going, and then nothing's really been going on the west side. We've been having protests or demonstrations or marches almost weekly, so we've been busy dealing with that going on, and kind of business as usual.
Matt?
If they brought SROs back in Sam Chrysler, would you guys even have the manpower to? Because how many officers is that?
I think before that program went away, it was 11. So
Yeah, no.
it'd be a long-term build up and discussion.
Did the school board provide 1.2 million for that program? School district?
In the past? No, I think it was less than that. Yeah, can't remember the exact number. It's been a few years. So.
We've sort of been congratulating ourselves silently because we didn't have an SRO for quite a long time. Now we do again. But then I think, we got by fine with just one. I think how many you must need to cover your school district, and it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, with not within the city, but with Salem Kaiser Public Schools, it's 45,000 people are filtering through that system 5 days a week. So when I was the lieutenant over that program, I knew when summer had happened because I had a little break, but it's go for sure.
All right, city government, city of Dallas.
Couple of things. We are into budget season. I have not seen the new budget. It's supposed to land on our mail slots any moment now, but I haven't actually seen it yet. As far as I know, knock wood, there are no public safety cuts in this year's budget. We had to do some creative things, but I think everything there survived. The big elephant in the room right now, of course, is the attempt to get a bond passed so that we can build ourselves a police station. Like I say, it's the elephant in the room. There's 3 measures on the ballot asking for money. So how this is going to sort itself out is anybody's guess. Stay tuned, Bill 11.
Away.
State budget releases last economic forecast on May 14th. And then by June 15th, hopefully we'll have a budget. But right now, we were presented twice in front of Ways and Means. So this agency, we're waiting to see who gets the money.
They've got a new executive director, yeah.
We have a lot of openings in the Youth Authority.
All right, Allison, Liberty House.
Sure. Yeah, Liberty House, we're doing it. Again, I think I announced last time, we received national accreditation, so we've been, now that we can breathe a little bit, making the rounds for all of our law enforcement agencies, and it's kind of making sure that we're getting more feedback. So Sheriff, I don't know that we've had a chance to meet, but I want to make sure that we can do that. So what I'm really interested in hearing is when your detectives or officers call and need to make a referral, how's that experience going? Are you able to get appointments when you need to? We've expanded the number of appointments we offer, and we want to make sure that we're delivering for you. With respect to state funding, for the very first time, Liberty House put in a bill to help stabilize things. Funding is a little bit off right now. The state funding looks like this. This is where it was in 2013. This is where it is now. It has stayed exactly like not one dime more. The amount that it costs with salary increases and all those expensive things is this. So in 2013, when I came on board, the state funding covered about 37%. Now it covers 17%.
12 years, wow.
And so I would not be doing my job if I did not invite you all to the auction on Thursday night. Please come. I'll be wearing a dress. We'll be dancing. And bring your friend. It's not too late to go online, buy a ticket, get a table, and bring people who love to support children. You know, and if there are any stakeholders, and I'm holding some stakeholders meetings right now, like, I just would like to invite people to think about child abuse differently. It is at the heart of all the juvenile dysregulation, right? You can't blame the kids. What were the first few years of their lives, right? So if y'all haven't been on a tour, do that, please come. But we're really trying to help make all of our communities safer by giving you the intervention that you need. And also, there's cost benefit analysis. If there's something we can do by getting those interviews and those diagnoses, get you that evidence that you need. Also, our services help rule out, right? And so that can really be helpful for access to justice. So obviously that was a very big speech. Sorry about that. It's the risk of having me in this meeting.
Okay.
But we're gonna try to be helpful.
There's a new system that's coming out for distributing reports. Is that?
Yes, thank you for that. Right, yeah, we are going digital. And so, there's secure so that can make it facilitate getting the reports submitted for your case as well as for making it available for the court. So we've been working with the DA's office as well on that. So if there are any questions, Sarah Prophet is our legal department manager. And really mean it, like, our job is to be absolutely neutral. So, if your colleagues in the defense bar would like to come for a tour of the station, what can we do to be helpful? Have that conversation with the DA's office, with law enforcement. Just because the whole field is so complex and we want to be helpful.
I had one other thing I forgot to mention when it was my turn. 1145 waiver for paying for healthcare for inmates is working its way through, and it sounds great, but in reality, it is not really good at work for us. It's only for 18 to 21-year-olds. It's only for basically preventative type things. It's not for acute. If someone has brain cancer, they don't come in, their healthcare doesn't cover brain cancer treatment in jail. It's preventative things. And then it also allows, if you've been in foster care in Oregon up to your age of 26, if you've been in foster care at any point, you're then qualified for those limited procedures. The way they kind of build it initially was that it's going to cover, this is going to solve a problem that we really don't have now. Our people that are sick and that have medical issues are the older drug users and mental health folks, not the 18 to 21-year-olds. Typically, those aren't going to so it's really not going to solve anything for us. They wanted to throw a lot of money at us, like $1.5 million one-time funding, but they can't say how to maintain it long-term. Oh, more than a year, actually. They can't even say that. So it's not the savior that they made it seem like. So if you hear talks about health insurance covering inmates, yes, it's happening, but to a very tiny degree. So
I'm the absolute polar opposite of a subject matter expert on this. Boy, does that sound arbitrary. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a meeting with them last week and a half ago, and she didn't have a lot of answers, but was willing to give us a lot of money for things that we didn't necessarily need. But
No emergency room,
nope,
nothing.
doesn't cover ambulance rides. It doesn't cover any of the stuff that we need to actually help the county save money.
Sounds more like a gesture than a program.
That all comes out of general fund, county general fund.
Yep, that's where all that money comes. So typically we're about 500,000 a year for medical costs. We bumped it up to 700 this year just because that's the way it's going for everything. So anybody else have anything else we missed? Or all right, go forth and conquer then. Next meeting's like August 4th.